I found a quote that I think you've probably heard before. You don't buy life insurance because you're going to die, but because of those you love are going to live. And then I found an article that talked about the 4 reasons people buy. So I'm going to hit you with these reasons. You give me your thoughts as to how you feel this works as a producer, agent, and such. And we'll kind of go on that for the next 8 minutes. Alrighty, so it's another episode of the Insurance, Life, and Everything in Between podcast, featuring this cat that got on the desk out of nowhere today. We're going to talk about, though, not just cats getting on the desk, but football, the AFC and NFC championship yesterday that taught or reminded me a lot about what people struggle with in sales, and then the lies that clients try to sell us about why they don't want to buy insurance. Adam, how's things going? And are you ready for today's topics?
Yeah, let's go. All set.
Awesome. All right. So I live in Maryland. I'm not wearing any Ravens gear. I don't own any Ravens gear, recent Maryland convert, but I had a lot of family over to the house yesterday, and they were all greatly disappointed by the results of the Ravens game. And I don't know a whole lot about football, probably very little. But what I did notice is they played their brains out too much. Like they were overly emotional. Like they tried too hard to the point where they made 5, 6, maybe 7 different strategical mistakes that basically cost them the game. What are your thoughts on watching them play so emotional it actually cost them the game?
Well, I guess I don't know. I guess maybe from like a viewing perspective, it just really depends on what you're focusing on. I guess if you're rooting for the Ravens, maybe that's kind of what you saw. Where I was rooting for the Chiefs, so I was just kind of seeing more of how they were just kind of dominating majority of the game. I mean, it seemed like honestly, it didn't even really feel like it was that close of a game. I mean, I think the final score, would they win by like 10? I mean, it was fairly close, but to me, it didn't really feel that way because they were just so dominant. I could see what you were saying though about Baltimore with the fact that they just kind of seemed like they were overly almost like excited, like just they couldn't really get comfortable, couldn't get focused. And yeah, maybe it made a difference. I think with the playoffs, it really just doesn't matter how well you played throughout the season. I mean, you could barely get into the playoffs and make the Super Bowl. The Chiefs, I mean, heck, I mean, the Ravens, they were the number 1 seed. The Chiefs were the 3 seed. And the Chiefs have been playing on the road most of the playoffs. They really didn't play that great this year, I don't think. I mean, they made the playoffs, but just they were nowhere near as dominant as they had been like in prior years. So everyone was just kind of like, well, they're going to make the playoffs. We'll see what happens. But playoffs came around, boy, and it's like they just totally stepped it up. They look like a totally different team. Even before the game yesterday, I mean, every single commentator besides one predicted Baltimore to win. One guy said, no, I got the Chiefs. And I mean, and he was right. And I kind of felt that way too, even before the game. I was like, I don't know. I mean, I know the Ravens are good, but the Chiefs has just been so dominant the last few weeks. I honestly really wasn't too worried about the game. I like the Chiefs. I mean, they're not like my number 1 team, but I have family that lives in Kansas City. You know, I go out there maybe once a year. And so yeah, you know, if they're not playing the Bears or, you know, I like the Eagles, I'm usually rooting for the Chiefs.
I don't know why Kansas City is actually in Missouri. I think that's a scam that needs to be discussed in another podcast. But more importantly, I think agents need to be a little less emotional too. I think they let emotion run their business at times. And when you're overly emotional, you lack logic, you lack understanding, critical thinking. And before you know it, you can let a business opportunity get away from you. What are your thoughts on agents getting overly emotional and it messing with their production?
Well, I think agents could get overly emotional. They could get overwhelmed maybe sometimes too. Just kind of not really knowing exactly how to handle things. Or, I mean, I've even had it, you know, one good problem to have, I guess, in our business is having too many leads. But in the past, I mean, I used to get overwhelmed. I would have stacks of leads just not really knowing how to get to all of them, where to get and who to talk to first. Like, and then I just kind of realized I'll get to all of them sooner or later. I don't have to reach everybody today. Just got
Mhm.
to have to slow down a little bit, maybe put the week together a little bit, figure out where I want to go one day and then where I want to go the following day, and just relax a little bit. I mean, we got to remember this business is a marathon. It's not a sprint. Nothing's just going to happen overnight. Sometimes maybe agents they expect instant results. They think that right away they're going to get out there, they're going to be successful, they're going to write business, and all this money is going to start coming in. So I could see that being a thing where they just kind of get overly anxious, where they are expecting to get paid. Maybe there's some carriers that they're not going to be getting paid on right away. Uh, we're working on commission. So I mean, I think a lot of that could play a factor. People could be coming from situations where they just weren't successful, weren't making a lot of money, and they need to make money now.
Yeah,
So
it's tough.
just a lot of that really kind of plays into it, I think.
Yeah, I think even if you're sitting here listening to this and you're saying to yourself, this is just nonsense. I've got $6.12 in my bank account. I need to make some damn money. How am I not going to be emotional about that? I think you have to regulate it to a certain point. Like maybe that's what fuels you, but what happens when you run out of it? Like find that happy medium where, yes, you might have stress on you because you need to make the money. But if you go into the home needing to make the money, they're going to smell that shit on you and you're not going to make the sale. Like the people we sell in final expense, Medicare and such, they're not book smart, but they're incredibly street smart. And if you go in there smelling desperate for business, even if you are, it's not going to come off really well. I also think, Adam, when we're talking about being overly emotional, because I think that's what cost the Ravens the game, I think when things get hard, like it's hard to afford the lead order, it's hard to make another purchase, it's hard to get out the front door, it's hard to be told no. It's so incredibly easy for people to pull the plug on it instead of just continuing forward thinking this hard is really the gateway to the next level, not something meant to push me back. Do you ever find that people, when it starts to get hard on them, either fall back way too often instead of going forward?
Well, I think that you just have to have thick skin. You got to know going in that rejection is just part of the business. You're not gonna write business on every single person that you sit down with. I've had weeks like that though. That I mean, it gets tough. It gets tough when every single person you talk to just keeps telling you no, and you can't get anywhere with them. It happens to the best of us. I mean, I've been doing this forever, 21 years now. I mean, it still happens. Uh, and yeah, it can be tough, but you just kind of have to get over it. You got to realize that that's just part of the business. And I've always said the good days are going to make up for the bad. And if it didn't work, I mean, heck, I would have found something else to do by now.
Yeah,
So, yeah,
absolutely.
you got to kind of get over that and just know that there's sales there. You just got to find them.
Yeah, I think the best equivalent I could make in the builder perspective versus the producer perspective is producers think to themselves, things like this only ever happens to me. False. Everything happens to everybody, both good, bad, and in between. Everyone deals with good, everyone deals with bad, everyone deals with normal. So no one is predisposed to more bad than anybody else, and you can't allow yourself to believe that. I think at the builder perspective, you think to yourself, yeah, I could afford the leads. No, it's not an issue if they charge my card. But the issue is, man, I built a big leg and now they left. I was making an extra $6,000 a month off this group. This group's gone. So you might not think the guy that you're working with deals with similar struggles. They just deal with struggles with a different name. We all deal with them, and we're not going to grow if we don't push past that when those levels of adversity arrive. Talking football, saying a lot today. That's kind of silly. Adam, what happened in the second game? By the time we got to the second game of the night, my kids were tired. Party was winding up. Cleanup time here. I didn't catch nearly as much of it as the Ravens game. So, what do you think you took away most from that second football game yesterday?
Well, the second game, the 49ers, I mean, they were predicted to win that game. I don't know what the spread was, but I know that, they were favored. And the Lions came out there. I was rooting for the Lions. I mean, I got agents that are in Michigan, not too far from me. I mean, that's really just the reason why. And the fact that the Lions never do anything. It was like the first time they'd played in the NFC Championship game, maybe ever, maybe a few other times, but I mean, they've never played in a Super Bowl. I mean, they were like the true underdog sort of thing. So I like rooting for the underdog. And so they came out there, boy, they were playing hard. They were playing confident. They were winning 24-7 at the half. And I was actually texting one of my agents that's in Michigan, and I said, "Man, if they can play like they did in the first half, I mean, it's set. They're going to the Super Bowl." And he said they could probably play half as well as they played in the first half, and they'll probably end up going to the Super Bowl. But it just didn't happen. I think that there was a lot of poor decisions made even by the coaching in the second half, and that led to the Lions just collapsing. The 49ers, they scored 17 in the third quarter, and they tied the game up 24-24, and they ended up winning 34-24, I think. They ended up winning by 10. The Lions didn't do anything the second half. So yeah, my agent who said they could play half as well and still win, they didn't even play a half as well. But like I said, the coaching, there were a few fourth down plays where, I mean, heck, they could have kicked a field goal and they ended up going for it. They didn't get it. That ended up costing them 3 points. I think that happened twice. So it's like if they would have just kicked one field goal there, they would have been down by 7. They would have still been within range to end up tying that game up. But like I said, just some poor coaching decisions, in my opinion, that ended up costing them the game.
Yeah, speaking of coaching, we were going to talk about buyers or liars, but I want to wait until we go through this topic first because I think they kind of sit together very well when it comes to content, and this one flows better than the other one. I want to talk about in the agent perspective, in the insurance agent perspective, that is why people buy from us. You know, we could talk about why the Ravens lost, why the 49ers came back, but people are watching this because they also want to learn something and make more money. I found a quote that I think you've probably heard before. You don't buy life insurance because you're going to die, but because of those you love are going to live. And then I found an article that talked about the 4 reasons people buy. So I'm going to hit you with these reasons. You give me your thoughts as to how you feel this works as a producer, agent, and such. And we'll kind of go on that for the next 8 minutes. So the first one they gave was people buy insurance or they buy products in general because they want to solve a problem. Thoughts on that?
Well, yeah. The problem is that if they were to pass away, there's not going to be anything there. So that's a big problem. And most of our clients, that's just how it is. They know that they need it. So to me, it's not a very difficult sale as long as you focus on the fact that what's going to happen if they don't have this.
Yeah. Do you think agents struggle to close more than the low-hanging fruit when they don't recognize they need to find or solve or create a problem and solve a problem or really unlock the whole problem aspect to the sale?
Most definitely. We talk about that a lot. If someone is just focusing on face amounts and rates, they're not really breaking down and dissecting the actual need. And so if all you're selling is on face amounts and rates, like I said, that's not adding any value. And you're just kind of setting yourself up for someone else to come in maybe that does a better job and maybe focuses more on the value propositions, and people will end up wanting to do business with that person, even if they got to pay a little bit more, in my opinion.
I think the next one they have on the list here is so true for so many aspects of buying. Maybe it's buying into working with Adam Brsan. Maybe it's buying into working in the industry. Maybe it's buying insurance, but they feel seen, heard, and understood. I think that this also speaks to rapport and connection building in the sale. What are your thoughts when it comes to buying stuff, when it comes to being seen, heard, and understood?
Well, that's where I think that we need to get involved and ask a lot of questions and get the client more involved, the prospect. And that's how it's going to hit home, and show that you care. When you ask some of those questions that are going to hit home, show that you care. Show that, wow, you lost a loved one and there wasn't any insurance, and then you had to figure out how to pay for it. boy, that had to have been very difficult. Like I really understand why you sent this card back then, because I'm sure you don't want your family to have to worry about that too. And I'll do my best to make sure that we'll take care of you, so your family's not going to have to worry about it. Like, that's it. I mean, you got to
Right.
really, you can feed off of their responses, but focus on the need and focus on things that are going to hit home, that are relatable, that make them remember why this is so important.
Do you think that sometimes people buy into working with Adam Brsan because you make them feel seen, heard, and understood in what they want in business and in life?
I think so. I mean, at the end of the day, yeah, I don't know. I kind of look at it as, I want to set somebody up to succeed. And it's all about replication. I mean, however I'm doing things, or know the ways to do things the best. I mean, that's how I want to make sure I set my agents up. I mean, why do things differently myself when I'm going out and writing business and setting agents up another way? Uh, no, I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, I want to replicate myself and see to it that everyone else does just as well as I have. And yeah, make them feel like they are a person, that I really do care, that I'm there for them when they need me.
I think one of the biggest challenges in leadership is figuring out what motivates your important players on the field. Like, is Adam motivated by contests? Is it money? Is it notoriety? Is it knowing things about his family? Like, what motivates this person so that you can tap into that when they need it the most? And that's tough because no one comes in wearing a jersey that says, I'm motivated by contests. I'm motivated by birthday cards. Adam, I had a guy once, and to this day, I spend a portion of every holiday trying to make sure this doesn't happen. He left me years ago and he said, one of the reasons I'm leaving is because you didn't say happy Thanksgiving to me on Thanksgiving. And I'm like,
Yeah,
huh.
that's just,
But maybe he was seen, heard, and understood by being noticed. Maybe he was eating Thanksgiving in his apartment alone with his cat from Boston Market and no one noticed him. And he was hoping somebody, that guy who makes 5 points off my sale, maybe he'll notice me and say Merry Thanksgiving to me. You never know.
I mean, how many agents, how many people in sales have egos, Chris?
All of them.
I mean, at the end of the day, yeah, people are out there working hard, they're making money. A lot of agents, they just want to make sure that you notice. They want to
Mhm.
make sure that you can see that they're doing something, and that they're writing business, and that you actually care. Uh, what if an agent has a great week? They might write 4, 5, 6,000 in premium, but you don't notice, or nobody's there to say anything. Like, they feel alone. They feel like that what they just did. Yeah, they got paid, but did it really matter?
Yeah.
And I think at the end of the day, people want to feel like they matter, like they're a part of something.
Yeah. Why do you think the biggest points of distribution in our industry are not from lone wolves that are self sufficient on their own, but from large groups, jersey wearing, flag flying, identifying groups of people that are feeling recognized? Why do you think people go to these conventions? Some people even pay money to go to their IMO's convention. Mind blowing. They want to be seen, they want to be heard, they want to see others, and they want to be understood in the grand scheme of life insurance and Medicare sales. Um, Next one I've got for you is sometimes people buy whatever because of emotion. And obviously, the final expense sale is incredibly emotional. They're buying an intangible purchase that I can remind the viewer they're never going to use. Nothing. They're not going to use any part of this. That's why it's emotional. What are your thoughts about emotion in the final expense sale?
It's very emotional. Uh, well, again, we focus on the need. They don't have money saved to cover their funeral. Majority of our clients have been through it. Someone passes away, they weren't prepared. I mean, we got to figure out how to pay for it. That's tough. That's emotional. It's hard enough to lose somebody, but when you have to figure out how to come up with the money to pay for it, yeah, it's a very emotional purchase, because they don't want to put their family in that same sort of situation. They don't want their family. as like their family's last thought, like that's how they're going to remember their loved one. They stuck us with this $10,000-$15,000 bill because they didn't want to plan ahead for it. So yeah, I think it's a very emotional purchase. They're doing this for their family. Like you said, it's for the living. It's not for the deceased. They're doing this because they care about the people that they leave behind, and they care about the legacy that they leave behind. And like I said, they don't want that to be how they're remembered. Oh, they left us with this big bill because they didn't want to do anything about it ahead of time.
Yeah, I've corrected people in a presentation before where they say things like, "Well, if I were to pass away." Huh? You mean hold on. When you die. No, no, no. If I were to pass away, not if, not you got to be listening to what people are saying as an active listener, and then use that words they're using to help move the process along. I'm not trying to be rude to a possible client when I say that to them, but I need them to understand the mortality of what we're talking about. And even if on the off chance they don't buy from me that day, maybe I kind of softened the sale for the next person, because we really want people to have insurance. Passing money and stability down to the next generation does the world good. Everyone dying unprepared doesn't do anybody good. So listen to what people are saying. Adam, I think when we're talking about emotion and we're talking about logic, the bridge between logic and emotion is faith. I think a lot of agents get into this business emotional, a little bit of logic, but they need a lot of faith. Faith gets them from that first lead purchase to the second lead purchase, from the deposit into the field, from contracting to their first deposit, from where they are to where they want to be. Where do you think faith plays a part in the evolution of an agent?
Well, I mean, faith and belief in themselves. Uh, Again, I think a lot of it just has to do with following a process, following a system that works and believing that it's going to work. And if you see others that have been successful and they've done well with it, to me, there's just really no reason why you can't succeed as long as you follow what you're taught. If you know what you're doing, you'll be fine. But to me, it's just more about belief in yourself and holding yourself accountable when things don't go right and figuring out ways to fix them.
Lastly, this morning, as we talk about why people buy us, you, insurance, just the whole concept of buying in general, why do you think people buy you and choose to work with you? Or why should people consider buying into you and working with you compared to all the other talking heads out in the industry?
And we talk a lot about personalities, I guess you could say, and where one person might want to work with one person, another person might want to work with another person, just kind of based off of common personalities. At the end of the day, I think most agents like to work with me because I'm pretty straightforward. I mean, I tell it like it is. I'm not going to sugarcoat things. I'm not going to make this sound like you're going to make all this money overnight and you don't even have to get out of bed. There's a lot of that out there, a lot
Yeah.
of false advertisement, a lot of false promises. And I mean, I met up with some guys over the weekend, some young agents that are ready to kind of get moving forward with me. And that was really the discussion we had. Like, look, I'm going to do everything that I can to help you. And I want to see you succeed at this long term. But at the end of the day, I mean, for one thing, you have to want it more than me. And you gotta have thick skin. You gotta know that I'm gonna be upfront and forward with you and let you know if you seem to be the issue. I mean, I'll let you know. I'm not afraid to come forward and say, hey, look this is what needs to be fixed and this is what you're doing wrong. And I think maybe there's people out there that don't like to hear someone coming out and calling them out and telling them that they're the reason that they're not succeeding. But I think at the end of the day, I think most agents, they would prefer that. They'd prefer someone that's going to be straightforward and tell it like it is and know that they got their back, that know that they're going to be there for them as long as they do things the right way.
One of the first things I tell folks when they decide to come work with us is I'm going to be honest with you so that you don't have to think to yourself when we're talking through a filter of, is this accurate information? I'm going to be honest with you. And I would expect the same thing in return, so that when we reach complicated conversations and maybe even confrontation, we can at least know we're operating from a fair playing field of honesty. I think this industry is so full of fakery and falsehoods and dishonesty and deception and taking advantage of people. Like we had one of our agents on this morning, and he's talking about why he chose to work with us. And he knows that I'm not worried about making the money off of him. I want him to make money. Like, I don't need the money off of him to pay any of my bills. I want him to have success in the business. And I told him the same thing. I'm going to be honest with you. I would expect the same thing in return. And Adam, I'll close with this story. I had an agent get a complaint. We all get complaints. If you haven't gotten a complaint yet, well, good luck. Awesome. But when I asked them about it, the bedrock of the relationship is be honest with me. I'm going to be honest with you. You be honest with me. Is there anything in this complaint that we need to be concerned about, or is this simply bullshit? And I trusted, based off of our relationship, the upfront honesty, the answer they gave me. And I said, knowing that this is honest, I'll go to bat for you. But when people are dishonest, boy, that's a tough thing to recover from. So hopefully people understand the value of honesty, how it comes from Adam, how it comes from me, how it might not come from everybody, and how important it is to the growth in your business. Any closing thoughts today?
No, I mean, you pretty much got it covered there. At the end of the day, it's just like you said, agents just need to know that there's a lot out there when it comes to sugarcoating things, lots of fluff out there. Like I said, people think that you can just show up and not have to do much of anything, and all of a sudden all this money starts coming in. Like, no, this business is hard. You got to be willing to put the time in. But those that do, and those that are willing to follow people that have been successful, that are willing to listen and not change things and do things the way that they know are going to work, end up doing pretty well. So, that's about all I have to say. Be careful with those that you kind of buy into. Find people, whether it's me, whether it's Chris, but find people that are genuine, that are going to tell it like it is, and that aren't going to give you a bunch of false, fake promises that really never amount to anything.
You got it. Appreciate you guys watching, listening, or however you're absorbing this content today. Before you go, like, comment, and subscribe. Channel is growing on a great pace. And you know how it grows? It's by interacting with it, hitting the like button. Hey, maybe you disliked what we said. You dislike me. You dislike Adam. You dislike life in general. Hit the dislike button. I don't care. Subscribe to the channel. Comment below. Interact with what we put out. So with YouTube and all the podcast platforms will put it out to other people who will benefit from this, but don't even know that it's there. Adam, thanks for joining me today.
Hey, thanks a lot, Chris.